Hello again. So now we are going to take a quick look at another very important concept. It is presented as a theory in mass media, but technically it's not a theory, it's a concept in itself. It's in fact an entire school of thought, right? It is called the Marxist approach to mass media. Some people call it the Marxist theory to mass media. Some people also identify it as the political economy theory or political economy approach to mass media. What you'll need to remember is when they say political economy, it is not the Marxist theory, it's only an offshoot, what followed after the Marxist theories were applied to mass media, right? Before we understand the Marxist theory of media, we need to understand what Marxist theories are, what Marxism revolves around. So it's a lot of information for you all to remember. So I'll simplify it. If you all are more interested in learning about Marxism per se, you can always check out a lot of videos. There's a lot of text, there's a lot of discourses available on the Marxist concepts, right? So Karl Marx, the name Marxism, Marxist theories comes from Karl Marx, the gentleman who proposed the Marxist theory, was talking about the imbalances in the society. We all know, right? The society is designed in such a way or structured in such a way that the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. So he said that there are these two distinct classes in the society. One is the elite rich people who already have all the resources, especially capital in terms of money, and then there is the have-nots, that is the ones who are poor, who don't have their own money. And you need to remember this was proposed around the time of the industrial age, the age where suddenly everybody started realizing that production of goods, production of products, and being able to distribute them and create a market for them and to be able to set up factories and industries and appoint a huge workforce and get them to help you produce these goods that can be distributed across was the best way to become richer, right? Even now, there is this startup culture which is kind of associated with the industrial movement. However, at that point of time, it was nothing related to software technology. It was mostly to do with objects. It was mostly to do with goods that could be touched, that could be felt. So, at that point of time, when Marx identifies these two distinctions in the society, the ones that were called the haves, that is the elite, right, they were identified as people who are industrialists, who have the money to invest in industries and grow and grow and grow. Whereas the have-nots, the poorer section of the society, had only one option, that is to identify and find an industry that they can work for and eventually contribute, right? And that's how they survived and that's how they made money. However, the biggest problem with the entire setup was that these guys were exploiting these guys. So he calls these guys, the rich, as the bourgeois, bourgeois, the bourgeois, that is the elite section of the society. And then there was the proletariat. The proletariat is the working class. So this distinction was very important in understanding how the bourgeois started controlling the proletariat. Now, as soon as you're dependent on the bourgeois for your survival, for your everyday survival, you're going to technically say yes or no to whatever they expect of you. Not no, only yes. So in that context, the proletariat were being controlled, and also to a large extent they were being they were being manipulated is not the word, I can't get the word, but they were technically being their terms and conditions were being dictated by the bourgeois, because these guys paid them and their survival entirely and essentially depended on these people. So in this context, when we are talking about the bourgeois and the proletariat, one of the things that Karl Marx sort of highlighted was the fact that the proletariat starts, uh, if not fighting, at least opposing the ideology set across by the bourgeois. And in order to do that, the proletariat has to come together. When I say come together, he basically refers to unite. Today, in the modern day scenario, whatever you see in the name of labor unions, whatever you see in the name of labor groups, whatever you see in the name of labor movements, they're all a part of what Karl Marx had presented long time back as the Marxist theory. What does the Marxist concept revolve around? Unite, basically. All of you come together. Now, this bourgeois, the section of the very little section of the society, is always smaller than the proletariat. That's how the society is naturally structured. Even in our country, how many people have a lot of money? That's very few, as opposed to the number of people who are out on the streets, who are working 9 to 9 every day, in really difficult conditions, like me. So in that context, when this person is smaller in number and this is larger in number, then they can come together, unite. So the only strategy that the bourgeois used was to divide and rule. So break that little concept. When you unite, you're going against him. So if one person says, no, I don't want to work today, right? There's no loss. You're just going to get fired. However, if the factory consists of 50 labor workers, and all 50 of them say, no, today we are not going to work, because one person out of the 50 of us has been denied this particular right, or whatever. We have not been paid well, or we are being exploited, that was the word I was looking for. We are being exploited to a large extent. So when all 49 of them stand up for the one person, then his business is under threat. So naturally they will start listening to what you have to say. That's why the word labor union was termed. So that is the basic idea of Marxism. Now, what kind of relevance does all of this have with respect to Marxist concepts in mass media? Right? That's a very interesting thing to learn about. I'm sure you guys have heard about Rupert Murdoch, right? Rupert Murdoch is considered to be a media giant who has pretty much invested, bought shares, bought ownership rights and everything possible in multiple media houses across the world, right? Initially started off buying only in the first world countries, but later expanded to pretty much all the big media houses in the world. Now that sort of a media control has a huge impact on the society, because now you're hearing a unitary voice. There are no alternative voices. If one person runs, or if one big giant, you pretty much know this is what almost was happening in India also to an extent, but I think it has been prevented. However, only time will tell what lies ahead for us. But you'll need to remember that from the media perspective, when media houses are being controlled by one big giant, the bourgeois, when the bourgeois sits and takes control of the entire ship, then the ship is going to go only in one direction, the direction that these people want to take you. Now, what happens with this? What is the problem with media being bought and one voice being heard? Well, one is there is not going to be any diversity in the information that you're going to receive. You're just going to receive the same kind of information on a daily basis. Two, they are not going to be focused on giving you information for your benefit. Their focus is going to be purely on trying to make money out of these media houses. Why do you want to own a media house? Very few people say, let me start a media channel, let me start a newspaper, because I want to do something for the society. No, another thing that they also have as a part of their intention is to make money. To them it's a business, and as a business they are going to embed a lot of capitalistic ideas that are going to enhance their business. And in that context, the kind of control that mass media have, the kind of labor force that is being dictated by the terms and conditions of the owners of the media houses, is going to be a huge problem, not just for the owners of the media house, but also to the employees of the media houses. That is your journalists, that is your reporters, that is your designers, all of them. You're just going to be working towards one ideology that is going to be helping the elite, the rich, make money through you, right? So that's one problem. And when it comes to the common man, the audience who watches the news channels, the audiences who are constantly engaging with media discourses, they are going to face a problem with respect to this by not getting the kind of information that they deserve, not getting all sides of one story, not getting awareness to a policy that might affect the bourgeois, not getting awareness or not being informed about goods and products that are not under the umbrella of the big gigantic owner. So these problems are highlighted in the Marxist concept of mass media. There are Marxist theory is called a grand theory, and it can be applied in multiple contexts. It not just in mass communication, but in every school of thought that you can think of. But one thing you'll definitely need to know with respect to Marxism is there was a very very strong emphasis laid on violence, right? You have to come together and fight. You have to come together and not let these guys control you, in order to do which you will have to sometimes engage in violent means. So this was something that was heavily criticized by a lot of audiences who have been engaging with Marxist theories. An offshoot of Marxism is neo-Marxism, and the same concept of political economy that I was talking about. Neo-Marxism is similar to Marxist theories. However, the one thing that they are going to be looking at is not to resort to violent means. The neo-Marxist theories look at subtle forms of control by the proletariat over the bourgeois, right? You'll have to remember two very important names in the neo-Marxist theory. Stuart Hall. Stuart Hall is a very, very popular neo-Marxist, and you'll also have to remember Dick Hebdige, right? So that's about the Marxist theory of mass communication.